What is actually inside your cup of tea? When you brew that soothing cup of tea in the morning, you probably assume you are getting pure, wholesome leaves. After all, tea is supposed to be healthy, right? But what if I told you that a Canadian investigation found pesticide levels exceeding legal limits in half the tea brands tested? What if a single plastic tea bag releases 11.6 billion microplastics into your cup? And what if workers picking your tea in India earn as little as $1.50 per day while living in squalid conditions? Australians consume over 14,000 tonnes of tea every year. Nearly 90% of it is imported. But behind those comforting boxes on supermarket shelves lies a story of hidden pesticides, microplastics, foreign ownership, and an industry built on exploitation. Today, we are exposing 7 tea brands and practices in Australia that you should avoid. Stay until the end because I will reveal genuinely clean alternatives that respect both your health and the workers who pick your tea. Let's start with the worst offender. Number 7, plastic tea bags. This affects almost every brand you buy, so let's talk about it first. A groundbreaking study published in the journal Environmental Science and Technology made a shocking discovery. Researchers at McGill University found that steeping a single plastic tea bag at brewing temperature releases approximately 11.6 billion microplastics and 3.1 billion nanoplastics into your cup. That's not a typo. Billions in a single cup. Many premium tea brands have switched from traditional paper bags to fancy pyramid-shaped bags made from nylon or polyethylene terephthalate, also known as PET plastic. They market these as superior products that allow leaves to unfurl, but what they do not tell you is that hot water causes these plastics to shed particles. A 2025 study from the Autonomous University of Barcelona confirmed these findings. When researchers exposed the released plastic particles to human intestinal cells, they discovered something alarming. The particles were found not only in the cell cytoplasm, but also in the cell nuclei, where genetic material is stored. This raises serious concerns about DNA damage from chronic exposure. According to Beyond Plastics, even paper tea bags often contain thermoplastic fibres used to seal the bag seams. And some paper bags are treated with a chemical called epichlorohydrin to prevent them from breaking. Brands using plastic pyramid bags include many premium products from Twinings, Tetley, Lipton, and specialty tea companies. Check your tea bags. If they are silky, shiny, or pyramid-shaped, they are probably plastic. Hey mate, before we move on to the next brand, I want to extend an invitation to you. I know it is a lot of information to absorb. When I started researching all of this, I felt completely lost. So I started taking notes. Every brand I researched, every hidden trick on the labels I discovered, every safer alternative I found. Over time, this has become something I use every time I go shopping. Have you ever thought about whether there was a complete guide that told you exactly what to buy or what to avoid? Well, it exists, and I call it my secret Australian food survival guide. It covers all the aisles, all the product categories, the brands to avoid, and the ones worth supporting. If you want to take a look, I have left a link in the pinned comment and also a QR code that is appearing on your screen. I do not know how long I will keep it there, but it has completely changed the way my family eats. So if it makes sense to you, I will be waiting for you at the special link. Now let's get back to the video. Number 6, Twinings. Twinings dominates the Australian tea market. By 2017, they held 37% market share, more than double their nearest competitor. That's more than Lipton, Dilmah and Tetley combined. But here is what Twinings doesn't advertise. They are owned by Associated British Foods, a British multinational that was targeted by UK Uncut in 2011 for tax avoidance involving interest-free loans to a Luxembourg entity, reportedly avoiding about £9.7 million in tax per year. In 2014, CBC's marketplace investigation tested 10 different brands of tea for pesticides. Half contained pesticide levels exceeding Canada's legal limits. Twinings was among those highest in pesticide contamination, along with Tetley and Lipton. A 2012 Greenpeace investigation tested 18 Chinese teas and found that all contained at least 3 types of pesticides. 14 contained pesticides banned for use on tea by China's Ministry of Agriculture. Since Twinings sources tea globally and packs much of it in China according to industry reports, this is concerning. Despite their British heritage branding, Twinings adds what they call natural flavours to many products. These natural flavours can contain between 50 to 100 ingredients, including solvents, emulsifiers and preservatives, all hidden under a single label. So when you buy Twinings, you are supporting a British multinational that dominates Australia's tea market, was targeted for tax avoidance and was found to have excessive pesticide levels. Number 5. Tetley. Tetley was launched in Australia in 1963 and is now available nationwide. What most Australians do not know is that Tetley has been owned by India's Tata Group since 2000. The Tata Group purchased Tetley for £271 million in what was described as the largest overseas acquisition by an Indian company at that time. Here's the problem. In April 2014, Columbia Law School and The Guardian reported that some of Tetley's tea is harvested by workers who do not receive the minimum wage in India. The company said that tea from those plantations is used only in India and not in Tetley products sold internationally. A BBC investigation in 2015 revealed the conditions on tea plantations supplying major brands including Tetley. Workers were paid about $1.50 per day, far below India's already low minimum wage. Many were malnourished. Living quarters were decrepit, with leaking roofs, open drains and cesspits flooding into living areas. An Oxfam report found that 50% of households on Assam tea plantations held below poverty line ration cards. Tea workers struggle to access clean drinking water, healthcare, and decent education for their children. Women bear the heaviest burden, concentrated in the lowest paid plucking roles. For every kilogram of packaged Assam tea sold, tea brands and supermarkets take up to 95% of the consumer price. Less than 5% remains on tea estates to pay workers. Tetley was also found in the CVC investigation to contain pesticide levels above allowable limits. Number 4. Lipton and Bushells. Lipton is the world's largest tea brand, and Bushells is Australia's oldest tea company, founded in 1883. Here's the twist. Both brands are now owned by the same company, Lipton Teas and Infusions, which was acquired in 2022 by CVC Capital Partners, a firm based in Jersey, for €4.5 billion. That means 2 of Australia's most recognisable tea brands are owned by a private equity firm based in a tax haven. Lipton tea is packed in the United Arab Emirates, while Bushells is sourced from Indonesia. Despite Bushells being marketed as a beloved Australian heritage brand, there is nothing Australian about where the tea comes from. The same CBC investigation found Lipton among those with pesticide levels exceeding legal limits. Lipton Yellow Label, Lipton Clear Green, and Lipton Darjeeling all tested positive. A Greenpeace China report found that all tested Lipton brands for the Chinese market contained 3 to 17 types of pesticides. While these were Chinese products, it raises questions about quality control standards. Lipton has been linked to the same Assam plantations exposed by the BBC, where workers lived in squalid conditions. And remember what I said about natural flavours? Lipton adds them too. Companies can use up to 100 ingredients and still call it a single natural flavour on the label. Number 3. T2. T2 is marketed as Australia's trendy premium tea brand. Founded in Melbourne in 1996, it expanded rapidly and now has stores across Australia and internationally. T2 was acquired by Unilever in 2013, and when Unilever divested its tea business in 2022, T2 became part of Lipton Teas and Infusions, owned by CVC Capital Partners. That hip Australian-feeling tea brand is actually owned by the same private equity firm that owns Lipton and Bushells. T2 is known for its loose-leaf teas in stylish canisters, but the company does not publicly disclose comprehensive testing results for pesticides or heavy metals across its range, which raises questions about transparency. A 2013 study published in the Journal of Toxicology found that over 70% of teas tested contained high levels of lead, while 20% tested positive for aluminium and other heavy metals. Organic teas were not immune, often showing higher lead contamination when steeped for more than 15 minutes. Tea plants absorb substances from the soil, including heavy metals from contaminated environments. China, which produces much of the world's tea, burns about half of the world's coal, spewing mercury and lead into the atmosphere. These metals end up in tea leaves. Without transparent testing disclosure, consumers have no way to know what is actually in their premium T2 purchase. Number 2. Heavy metals in all teas. This isn't about one brand, it's a systemic problem across the entire industry. That same Journal of Toxicology study I mentioned found alarming levels of toxic heavy metals in tea. Over 70% contained high levels of lead. Black teas showed the worst contamination, with green teas slightly better. Here's what's frightening. There are currently no existing guidelines for routine testing or reporting of toxicant levels in tea products. The researchers recommended public health warnings or regulations, but years later, nothing has changed. Tea plants are unique. They possess the ability to draw substances from the soil and accumulate them in their leaves. This means tea from industrialized regions, particularly China and India, can contain higher contamination levels than tea from places like Japan. A study in the journal Food Research International found that heavy metals can transfer from tea leaves to brewed tea during the steeping process. The longer you steep, the more metals you extract. And it's not just lead. The metals found include aluminium, arsenic, cadmium, and mercury. All of these have known health effects with chronic exposure. This is why knowing where your tea comes from and whether it's been tested actually matters. Number 1. The 90% import problem. Here is the biggest issue nobody talks about. Nearly 90% of tea sold in Australia is imported. That means almost every box on supermarket shelves comes from countries where pesticide regulations, labour standards, and quality control vary wildly. A Greenpeace India investigation found that 94% of 49 Indian tea brands tested contained pesticide residues. 59% contained at least one pesticide above European Union limits. 68% of the pesticides discovered were not even registered for use in tea cultivation. The pesticides found included neonicotinoids, which are linked to the collapse of bee populations. Some pesticides are being banned in other countries, yet they continue to be used on tea that ends up in Australian cups. And the exploitation continues. Tea workers in Assam earn a daily wage of around 167 rupees, roughly $3 Australian. They are not covered under India's Minimum Wages Act. 47% have no access to potable water. 26% have no toilets. Meanwhile, tea companies and retailers take up to 95% of what you pay for that box of tea. So what should you buy instead? For Australian-grown tea, Narada was Australia's largest tea producer, grown pesticide-free on the Atherton tablelands in far north Queensland. They were the first Australian agricultural business to receive Rainforest Alliance certification. Unfortunately, Narada paused tea production in 2023 due to declining demand, but their packaged products may still be available. Madura Tea is Australian-owned and operated, based in the Tweed Valley since 1978. They independently test their teas in Australia to ensure no harmful chemicals or pesticide residues. Their tea bag paper is 100% natural, plant-based. Madura brands are tested locally. For ethical imported tea, Dilmah is the world's first producer-owned tea brand. Founded by Merrill J. Fernando in Sri Lanka, 10% of profits go to the MJF Charitable Foundation. Dilmah is vertically integrated, meaning they control everything from plantation to packaging, and they pay their workers fairly. Dilmah is ethical and producer-owned. For plastic-free options, choose loose-leaf tea brewed in a stainless steel, glass, or ceramic infuser. Brands like Traditional Medicinals and Numi use unbleached paper bags with no plastic heat sealing. Go plastic-free when you can. If you must use tea bags, look for brands that explicitly state plastic-free or compostable bags. Check that they are not nylon or PET. And finally, steep your tea for less than 3 minutes. That is when heavy metals start to leach more intensively. Keep steeping under 3 minutes. Here's the bottom line. Plastic tea bags release billions of microplastics into your cup. Twinings dominates Australia's market but is British-owned, linked to tax avoidance, and found with excessive pesticides. Tetley is owned by India's Tata Group and connected to plantations where workers earn $1.50 per day. Lipton and Bushells are both owned by a Jersey-based private equity firm. T2, despite its Australian image, is owned by the same company. Heavy metals like lead contaminate over 70% of teas tested, and 90% of Australia's tea is imported from countries with questionable standards. But you have choices. Madura offers Australian-owned tested tea. Loose leaf with a proper infuser eliminates plastic entirely. And asking questions forces the industry to be accountable. Every time you choose ethical, tested, plastic-free tea, you are voting with your wallet. You are supporting better standards, demanding transparency, and refusing to pay for products that exploit workers and pollute your body. Check your pantry tonight. Look at those tea bag materials. And next time you reach for tea, think twice about what brand you are really supporting. If you found this video valuable, please subscribe and share it with someone who needs to know the truth about their tea. Until next time, buy Australian, buy ethical, buy smart.